Madelyn Moon, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I'm excited to dive into today's topic.
For having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you're sharing some absolute fire at the moment that I'm totally resonating with. And so I wanted to jam today on all things divine feminine and looking at this, woman in the world that's on a mission, that's wanting to achieve big things, but doesn't want to lose sight of that feminine within her, right? Or even wants to understand if that feminine is still there. Because sometimes, like, I remember like having that feeling of like, girl, do I even have a feminine within me? Like, I'm so on mission, on purpose, that I don't even know if it's there. And I would love to know your take on this, because you're someone who I see in the world doing big things, making impact, but you're also someone that I see as very feminine and having a beautiful masculine and feminine that harmonize and dance together. And I love that about you. So what's your take on women on mission in the world that want to do big things, that want to understand this dance?
That is a very big question. My take is that if you want to do big things, it must come from the place of your unique brilliance, which is your feminine. So by the time that people are listening to this interview, do they have an understanding of what the lineage is of David Data? Okay. So oftentimes I think people who are, especially since we're in the context of women who are really wanting to go out and achieve goals and build a business, build an empire, there is so much emphasis on the doing when we really find our juiciest places in our beingness. And I think what a lot of people don't understand whenever they're excited about going into their feminine is that in order to be in your feminine, to really be in your feminine and to feel safe in your feminine, you have to first come to be really close with your masculine. And the true masculine, the pure, beautiful, healthy masculine, the divine masculine, is not, I got to go do everything. And if I don't do everything, then I'm going to fall behind in my goals and my business. And then I won't make enough money if I don't make enough, blah, blah, blah. Like that is up in the air. And what we want to do is ground this airy energy that's totally in the head, down, 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 into the root, into the legs, into the earth. We want to bring that energy down. So someone who is wanting to do big things, are they wanting to do big things because they want to build things and they want to be an online entrepreneur and they want to have lots of Instagram followers? See, that's really in the head. You can even hear the way I'm talking about it. It's in the head. Or do they want to create and they want to build great things? And do they want to have an empire, right? Like there's a difference even the way that I'm speaking about it, because energetically it feels very different. And in order, I know your question's around the feminine, but I really want to make it clear that in order for the feminine to exist and to be nourished and to be planted and to grow, to feel creative, like to feel like the luscious energy of creativity, we need to feel safe. How do we feel safe? By having a very healthy relationship with our own masculine. So that's the first thing. Is I would even say, before going deep into your feminine, before concentrating on, or not, maybe not concentrating, because again, that's in the head, but before really making it your mission to feel into your feminine energy, what do your containers look like? How do your goals feel? Do they feel rigid and constricted, or do they feel safe and secured? Do they feel like borders, or do you have boundaries, right? There's a difference. Are you creating walls around your life, or are you creating like a safe haven? And I think I know if we want to truly let go and surrender and dance, ecstatic dance, we have to have a safe room with 4 walls in order to be able to do so. We can't just ecstatically dance on the top of a cliff with no gate around it with a blindfold on, right? Because we will die. We will dance right all off that cliff. But if we know that, okay, we have a blindfold on and it's kind of scary, but I'm going to dance anyways because I know that there's a gate around this cliff that it will catch me, we can dance our heart out because we're safe to do so. So having a very healthy relationship with our own masculine, where we can set our own containers for our practices, where we can set goals that feel nourishing and they're love driven, not ego driven, not likes driven, not keep up with whatever the other Instagram stars are doing right now, but really and truly, what do I need as a human being, as my own queen, my own goddess? Depending on whether you are a Leo or an Aquarius, depending on whether you're a projector or a generator, like it's going to look different for everybody with what you specifically need with your own masculine. It's going to look different.
Mm.
And once we are really coming to terms with how we want our own inner warrior to show up with his consciousness, then we can look at, well, how does my feminine dance with that? How does my feminine goddess bring her love, light, and energy and flow and like pleasure when she knows that she's safely held by her own king, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the most powerful combination, the most powerful. I am someone who, if we look at my birth chart, everything is fire. I am so fire. I'm everything fire. I'm Pitta. I am a Sagittarius moon. I am a Leo sun. I have my rising, or how does it, my Mars is right on my ascendant line. So Mars, the planet of aggression, is literally on my identity. Like I am just so much fire. ENFJ, leader. Like I'm, but I'm a projector also. So there's like a little bit of that like slowing downness to it. But I was built to be a very aggressive go-getter in a family of very aggressive go-getters. We're all fire.
Mm-hmm.
And if you sit in on our conversations, you'll hear everyone talking over everyone. There's 4 people talking at once all the time. I was not raised in a family where we're like, can I give you my thoughts on what you're sharing right now? Do I have permission? Like, no, it was everyone like projecting and talking over each other, blah, blah, blah. And, that was really interesting for me to grow up in that space and then come out into the real world where I'm just nothing but fire. And I am so grateful for my driven ambition because it led me to create. I've never had that problem, with quotation marks, where I am afraid of taking a chance because I have too much in me of just doing the thing, which has been great. And it's also held me back in so many ways. I created eating disorders. I had OCD. I have sensory processing disorder, which means textures can drive me bonkers up the wall to tears. If I have my socks on too tight, I will cry. Like it hurts me physically. Like there's just a lot that I couldn't sit in. Right? There's a lot in my life that I couldn't just sit with it. And that's why like coming to the feminine has been so amazing for me to realize, I've got this sensory processing disorder where it's very hard for me to listen to loud sounds. And my practice is, how can I listen to these loud bangs and also feel pleasure in my body?
Mm.
And that has been the same practice that I put into my life in every realm. All right, I have this client who is really poking at my wounds and it hurts, and my ambitious driven side wants to go and accomplish and fix it. Fix it, like the masculine likes to do, because the masculine just wants to end everything that's like that. Just stop it, fix it, solve it. And in my feminine practice, it is, how can I be with this trigger and also find pleasure in my body and relax and breathe and open and become energy in this moment and to reveal my feelings? Like, yeah, so I don't think, okay, it is possible to create your own personal empire and world where you are your own boss without the feminine. It's possible. Anything is possible. And I think that, and I know you're talking to Kendra and she'll talk all about this, but I think a big death will happen if someone experiences a massive masculine presence in their own life within them, but they don't also tend to their feminine garden. They will be missing out. They will be missing out on their own ability to let go.
Mm-hmm.
To freaking, like, all my clients are just like, Madelyn, I don't want to do it all. I don't want to be it all. I don't want to take care of everything, but also I don't want to be seen as weak. I don't want to be seen as weak. It is such a gift to allow yourself to risk being seen as weak, because you get to nap more, you get to let go, you get to go do frivolous stuff like writing creative fiction. Maybe you get to sunbathe a little more. Like you just get to indulge in pleasure when you're not afraid and terrified of being seen as weak.
Yeah, that's so good. Like, and it's almost like it can only last so long is what I see. It's like you can only go so long before you just like, oh my God, like somebody walk in and like take off this like big cement block that I'm holding and like help. Like it gets to that point, and whether you ask for help or you don't, your body will tell you, like your things will start to tell you. That's what I've experienced. Like even more so recently, it was like, I knew I was going in to work with London and Justin, and the week leading up, it was like, my safety things were getting triggered. I was in earthquakes. I was in fire evacs. I was in all these things. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm not one for like having somebody come and save me, but shit, if someone was going to walk through the door right now and just like say, hey, I'll look after you, that wouldn't be an issue.
It's just pride in the stories that we tell about receiving help. And it's not a surprise because we live in this society.
Right.
Like we are taught since we're little to go through the school system to one day get a job or to get a husband and have someone else take care of you, or be the breadwinner without any emotions, keep everything together, be separate, live in your own little house, move out from your families. If you live with your family too long, there's shame around that.
Yeah.
But if you don't take care of your family, there's shame around that. Like there's just so many mixed messages. And one of them that is just obviously the most prevalent in our society is to do it all. And the minute you get online, you see everybody else is doing it all. So you should be able to. It's so damaging.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of communities where everyone helps everyone.
Right.
Like we receive help. And one of the things that one of my friends would do whenever I would pay for our coffee or lunch, she would just go, receive, because she had to remind herself to receive because it was so uncomfortable, but she didn't hide it, right? She was being very upfront and forthcoming about her resistance to receiving. She would let me know. She would just be like, oh, I gotta receive. Thank you. And it was so funny. And I do that all the time now because it is something I have to verbally say out loud, like, receive, Madelyn. I know this is hard, but just receive the help because they are happy that you are receiving, and you're happy too because it feels good to be seen as worthy of receiving.
Yes, that's so true. Like had you always had this good relationship with your feminine?
No.
Okay. When did this start for you?
So that's like the whole bodybuilding fire, like fire energy. Like I was completely disconnected to this. So for everyone listening that's unfamiliar with me, I used to be a bodybuilder. I had eating disorders. I was a fitness competitor. I would get on a stage and 7 spray tan coats, and I had so much pride. I was the most prideful stick figure that ever existed. Like I wanted to be seen as everything. I wanted to be one of the guys. I wanted to be seen as hardcore, as like the nutrition smarty pants person. You could do it all. And I graduated early, blah blah blah. Like I just wanted everyone to see me as a certain way. It was perfection and a need to be special and different. Like that was always kind of my things. I need to be special. I need to be different. I need to be one of the guys too. And I was so disconnected from my body. I had shame around having a female body. My upbringing did not help with that at all. I was raised in a very conservative, and not to say that religion is the sole reason for this, because everyone is raised in different environments with different levels of openness and contraction in religion, and mine was on the air of major contraction. And so there was a lot of shame around sex and being a feminine creature, and I just felt disconnected, like, ugh. And if you feel like, ugh, about your yoni, I don't know, can I say pussy on this?
Go for it.
If you, I don't know, if one of your audience is like,
Go for it.
if this is too much. Okay, yeah. If you feel like, around your pussy, like your root, your sensual, indulgent powerhouse of creativity, the place where you're going to birth a poem, the place where you're going to birth a baby, maybe the place where you're going to birth a life, a business, that's where it's all birthed. And if you feel about that, you're gonna feel about everything you create. And so because I felt so disconnected from this part of my body, this tender, beautiful, loving, soft, hurt, pained out part of my body that just wanted love. Like the little inner child actually lives there. My inner child definitely lives in my pussy. It's like, I just want you to love me. And because I was so against that and beating myself up all the time, it just like rippled into every area of my life. And with the OCD and all this, I had no pleasure in my body. I had no love for my body fat. I had no healthy tools for releasing my tears in a way that's connected to my heart and sharing my truth in a way that actually brings me closer to love and me closer to myself, and then hopefully closer to others that I'm sharing with. And I owe so much of this to John Wineland and Kendra Kunoff. Like, so they are the only teachers I've ever been like, you are my teachers. I've found my teachers. I'm all set, and they trigger me and they frustrate me and I put all my mommy daddy wounds onto them, and they talk about this all the time, like in our tight knit container, like this happens, this comes up, and there's a lot of resistance, but like they have like taught me so much, and I'm continuously growing with them. Just my experiences, what they teach, of course, but just interacting with them and also being an assistant with them. Having to learn how to be in my masculine 1 minute to take care of the container, get shit done, and then the next minute like be in my pleasure and be a practitioner, and then next minute listen to them telling me what to do, and then having to battle, don't tell me what to do, like my own internal thing, and then finding pleasure within that. And like this constant dance of having my masculine rise and then my feminine nourish that. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like there's this, it's just definitely a dance where I allow my masculine energy to rise up, and it's beautiful and strong. But within that, I find the pleasure, I find the love light, I find the joy, and I find the places I can soften. That is really what all this is about. My entire life since doing this feminine masculine work has been about softening the edges, not changing and fixing, softening.
Right. And that's probably a good one to look at and to go deeper into, the softening thing, because softening doesn't mean weak, doesn't mean powerless, doesn't mean like, the feminine is just is soft, right? It's like this, there's a bit of language around this, or what's the word? Like there's just this thing around softening. So what does it mean to soften your edges?
Well, there's an energetic, there's a physical, and we'll just stick with those two. Energetically, softening your edges means to, actually, I want to start with the physical. Physical, it means to soften the places in your body that you're holding tension. Like if you want to soften something in your life, my boyfriend is out with his ex-girlfriend for coffee, it hurts, I hate it. Where am I holding the hate? Where am I holding the tension? Oh, my forehead. Okay, just soften that. Where else am I holding it? Oh, my arms. Okay, soften this. Where else am I holding my hatred and anger and jealousy that my boyfriend's out with his ex-girlfriend getting coffee? Oh, my pussy. How do I soften that? Of course. And softening the body, and then breath, bringing in more breath. Okay, I'm not breathing. My jaw is tight because I'm so angry. Okay, open my jaw. Release my jaw. Bring in more breath. Like that's the first place to start. If something is bothering you, triggering you, angering you, making you jealous, bringing in your shadow, soften your physical body and bring in more breath. Step one. That will energetically soften, right? Like when we soften the places in our body that we're holding tension, embodying softness, we begin to energetically embody softness. And then of course, like there's still going to be some thoughts that are spiraling. And I think that's when I begin at least to start to think about what's bringing me joy in this moment. Like literally just that, like I'm so angry, I'm so mad. What is beautiful about the moment though? Wow, I feel that's beautiful. That softens you, simply thinking about what is beautiful in this moment. Something that I have learned with John and Kendra is how to create art out of things that upset me. That's helped me to soften. So I'm a jealous person, get super jealous. And that was always something that really just, It's so funny. So my twin flame and I had a phone call last night, and we haven't talked in 2 years. It was just he called me at like 1 a.m. and I was like, sure, let's talk. We both have our birthdays coming up, and we always seem to break up around our birthdays. And so we were on each other's mind for whatever. We just talked for like an hour, and we were laughing because 3 years ago, I got so mad and jealous because he was complimenting a picture of me from 10 years ago. I was jealous of myself, and I was just projecting onto him. Like he saw a picture of me and he's like, oh, you're so hot there. And I was like, you don't think I'm hot now? Like, I was just so upset. I was jealous of me 3 years ago. And it's so funny. And like, that's how, and like that would cause a fight where he couldn't help and I couldn't help because I didn't have the tools for it. And now there's something that John and Kendra have taught us about creating sacred art around the things that are very real. Like, maybe I am feeling jealousy. How can I make that fun?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even create polarity to where we end up in bed together because it's kind of hot. And last night I was even thinking, like, how would I have created art out of that? And for me, probably like today, this version of me at least, I would probably find an outfit that was exactly like the photo of what I was wearing. I'd probably come into the bedroom and I would probably do some sort of like show, acting like I was that version of me 10 years ago. Oh, I'm Madelyn. Like, oh, what am I going to do? Bodybuilding show? Like, whatever it is that I was going on in the photo. And that's a way we soften the edges because we're bringing in humor and even polarity, and we're having fun with our own shadows.
I love that. I'm like curious to know how you find the line between showing and expressing from your heart and then going into show and performance, you know?
It's a very good question. Like, one of the best questions.
Mm.
It's such a good question. I will share my truth. Obviously, it's whose truth am I going to share? But my truth is, I've never struggled with this,
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of hard for me to say, because for me, when I embody a facial expression, I kind of just start to feel it, really.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to tell me, like, touch the part of your heart that has the deepest longing for a relationship and for love, and if I was to touch that and I would just like allow myself to feel what I feel, like if I was also to make eye contact with you and to like reveal my heart to you, like just the opening and like the way that I can feel into that place in my heart and connect with you at the same time feels very true to me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's sometimes when we do practices where we do a little bit like sexier things, right? Like we do a little bit of like, I'm sure you did this with London. You know, you move as pleasure. Maybe you move like a cat. And to some extent, you got to get started in a way that might not feel like it's automatically there. Like if you told me to purr like a kitty and lick my paws, like I would be doing those things. Do I automatically feel like a kitty? Maybe not from the start, but I think whenever you allow yourself to combine the movements and the embodiment with whatever you already know from your experiences, like heartache is just the easiest one for me to go into. I can go into it like that, and it feels very real. And dancing, if I was to go into my sacred slut and there would be a touch of performance to it, but a very real performance. And I think that's what the world of acting is teaching me, because we're performing. We have lines memorized, but bring yourself into it.
Mm-hmm.
Bring your memories, your heartache, your joy, the times you felt the sluttiest. Bring that into the lines that you have memorized, or the thing that John is telling you to do. He's telling you to dance. Bring that into that. And it creates magic, and it's combining of the two worlds. It's a great question, and I think because I don't have a background of being a performer. Like I know a few women who come to these events and do this kind of work, and they have a background in performing arts and dancing, like sexy dancing. Maybe they're pole dancing instructors. That's trickier for them.
Yeah, and I can relate because I grew up acting, dancing, singing, music theater, so very showy, very performancey. And so, and even in the interview that I did Jake Woodard on here, right? Like there was a point in the conversation where he was just like, he like called me out on it, like on this showy thing. And just and so the last half of the podcast, I was just in my heart, and it was like, you could feel the difference. So sometimes like doing the work with London, I was like, I wonder what the difference, like I felt the truth expression. And then I kind of like went back to like the lots of times in my life where I was like, oh shit, like I was putting on a show, like in those times, like, and because I had so many walls up around actually expressing. So I went into performance mode because that's what I knew. And so I've had a few conversations recently with people that are performers that are like, yeah, but what's the difference between it being this like, okay, I can step into that character or archetype, but is it my truth? But I like what you said about you accessing the truth first and then bringing that emotion to that thing. So if you're going to like, you're going to go into the slut, it's like, when in my life have I really felt that, and then infuse it in that. And I think that is the difference.
Yeah. Some like the secret slut, like if I was to like first combine a movement that would embody the sacred slut, I probably like open my legs, and I probably do like this and like show off my pretty bits, like whatever. I would use my body, but then I would feel into like, who is a man that is so inspiring as fuck in his consciousness? I would be a sacred slut for that man. I mean, it's probably God. So like if God was in front of me and he was in, I don't know, like Christoph Waltz's, I love him so much. If he was Christoph Waltz, and God was inside of him, like I love him so much. I would be a sacred slut for him. And I could just imagine like, okay, if Christoph Waltz was in front of me and I was to go into like my sacred, like I can do that. I can do that. And in a way, like this part was a little bit of performance because I'm using my body, but it helps me access that.
Yeah.
The body is such a powerful tool, just like we were talking about earlier with softening the edges. Soften the body. Is that performance? Like, no. It's you softening your body, but you are taking a shape that you weren't taking before. You did to some extent have to consciously think, okay, now I'm going to do this. And I think performance is like that. Okay, now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to use my body to do this certain thing. And then you bring in whatever your imagination wants to bring in to make it true for you.
Yeah. And there's probably almost an element of like, sometimes it might feel like a show because it's your nervous system, like getting used to this new thing. It's like changing your nervous system to what it's been used to. So it kind of feels like, actually, yeah, this is maybe a little bit accentuated right now. It's a little bit dramatic right now, but as I begin to cultivate it more and my nervous system gets used to this, then it won't feel like that going forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have to be ready to play. It's, of course, like when I lead my clients through practices that they've never done before. I mean, we're talking about women who feel self-conscious when they move their butt to the left and right. And I don't mean women, I mean humans. Same goes for me. Like 3 years ago, it was mind-blowing how uncomfortable I was with moving my own body in certain ways or making facial expressions. The first time I was told to embody anger, I froze. It was in front of 15 people, but they were like, we want to see you embody anger. And I was like, and they were like, more. And I think it was the most awkward thing I've ever done in my life, to be honest. Like I was like a robot. I was like, like it was so weird. I'm so glad I was not a fly on the wall to watch that. But now I can go into it because I've spent the past couple of years accessing it. And it's taken practice times. That's where the masculine comes in. It's taken the containers where someone says, okay, Madelyn, for the next 10 minutes, we're going to turn on Rage Against the Machine. Here's your plastic bat. You're going to feel your anger. For 10 minutes, there's a start and a stop. It won't be forever, don't worry. And knowing that allows me to go into it. So that's why it's great to have community who tells you. Because otherwise, you're not going to think to do this. You're not going to want to do it. The resistance is going to come up majorly if you do not have someone holding you accountable saying, do it, film it, send it to me.
Yes, for sure. What's your relationship then with like coming from the fitness world of perfection and then moving out of, have you moved out of perfection, and what have you found that served you in any form?
These are really good questions. I like the way you phrased it. Yes, I have moved out of perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that feels very true. Very few things. Very few things now come up where I'm like, put your lipstick back in the line. Like if it's a little out, I'm like, whatever. Like if I have dirt on my dress, I'm like, whatever. I'm just more relaxed because I've realized, and it's not to say that we change because men like this, right? I'm not saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it helps me to know that, like, oh, they actually like this kind of stuff. I've realized in my work that men actually really like the messy feminine. And so I've allowed myself to be more messy in public and say things that are a little more daring. And if it's primarily because it feels good to me, but also I think it's received well. I don't know, maybe. It doesn't really matter. I just know that it feels good to me to be much more in my mess, and it's way less exhausting. It's way less exhausting.
Besides like the lipstick out of lines and dirt on your dress, what's messy for you?
Well, my emotions. First, that's the first thing. My emotions are I cry once a day. Not recently though, probably because where we are in like the Leo season, there's been a lot of like fiery energy, and like we
feels good
we
right
get
now,
it.
right?
We get it. We're like on fire right now. We're
Yeah.
getting shit done. It feels good. But last month,
Yes,
it was just like
same.
this bed was completely occupied by me all the time, crying and doing my practices, moving my body, and just like, oh my god. And it's very messy at times, and sometimes whenever I do record videos where I reveal how I feel to my friends who are also in this work, and they ask for it, they get it. I still do this sometimes, but not always. Like part of the perfection is rewatching my videos, making sure my head wasn't raised up too much where it looks like I have a double chin, and my eyes don't look like they're different sizes. Like I just would get so critical. Like here I am revealing my heart and crying on a video, and I'm just making sure that I'm doing it beautifully. Right? And I'm just like, do I look, what do they get? Will they be attracted to me? Am I pretty? Like what is, and then I just have a practice of recording it, whatever angle comes up, and hitting send. And then the feedback I get of them saying, you're beautiful for your feelings. You're beautiful. Thank you for showing that. It's been so healing for me. And whatever angle that, arises. So that's the most messy thing in my life, is just my heart and its constant yearning for love and attention and communion, and just like my needs and everything that makes me like, I'm actually a baby. I really am. I'm like a newborn baby. I go out into New York City. I end up crying because it's too stressful. I come home, I'm hungry, I want to poop. Like I just like, I'm all over the place as a baby. New York has a way of bringing the baby out of me so much. I feel my instinctual primal needs more here than anywhere else.
Because belonging and community's been coming up for you here, right?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
you shared vulnerably, like on your story recently, and I'm in New York right now too. And I was resonating with that as well. And I don't know if it was because like I was like, am I just like, even in communities where I have like really good friends, like even though I have tribe and I've done a good job at like spreading that all around the world, like even though I'm there in those moments and I'm like, oh my God, I just love these people so much, I still have that thought that I'm like, but do I really belong here? Like I'm always like this feeling like this kind of and I didn't know it was because I have this something within me, and maybe it's that fire that wants to just like create and like just like almost tap into that masculine essence of like, I do want to make an impact, and I do want to like, because why not? Like why else am I here? Like I want to do these things. And I was like, is that just like my ambition that's making me create my own disconnect from belonging or community? I don't know, but like what you said in your video on your story, like maybe you want to share it for people who didn't get to hear it, but like that really resonated. And the feminine, as I'm tapping more into the feminine and the pleasure and that feeling and allowing that yearn for love and stuff come out, like it's shifting it. But also there's still that thing that just sits there of being like, but can I be okay with feeling like I want to like go to New York for 6 weeks, or like, you know, go back to it, like go here and there. I used to judge myself for that. But you like, you know, you see it as a gift and you own it.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm like tearing up as you're saying this. I don't know if you can tell, because it's amazing how many comments I got yesterday. And I already had my own longing. And I'm like, I feel like hundreds of people's longings, and I'm realizing how real of a problem, right, with quotation marks. It's not an actual problem, but it also kind of is. Like, and I'll share what I said in the story. I have a good size following, and I think people see me as someone that's always here and there and connected, and I've got all this community and like blah blah blah, it's all so good. And the first thing that I shared about this, just to kind of summarize how little true deep relationships I have, is I just came out and said, I've been invited to 2 weddings in my entire life. One was a best friend from 2nd grade that I've known my whole life, and I couldn't make it. And I couldn't make it to the wedding. The other one was someone who came to my retreat. She was a client. She came to my retreat and she was like, we'd love to have you at our wedding because you helped me. You saved my life in these ways. Not saved my life, but you know, you influenced me. And that's it. Like everyone is always telling me, oh wait, everyone's about to get married. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like people don't consider me whenever it comes to inviting people to their wedding. I don't know what it's like behind the scenes, but I don't think I even make it to the first round of lists. Because while people see me, listen to me every single week, they're listening to my podcast, they come to my Instagram stories, they feel so close to me. We're not best friends where we share our soul with each other. And I have so many people who are reaching out to me on a regular basis, and I'm serving, I'm helping, I'm emailing back. There's so many people that I'm constantly coaching or trying to help. I have very little energy to follow up with people who want to have a phone call. The last thing I want to do at the end of the day is have another phone call to listen about your day-to-day life. I mean, I just don't. I'm so tired. I just want to nap. I just want to sleep and detox all the energy out. But this is
hashtag projector.
Seriously, yeah. Like I just want my blanket, my bed, and Breaking Bad right now, which I'm rewatching. And it can be a lonesome life. And on top of that, because that's like more new. Like I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years, but really serving as many people as I'm doing, because I kind of am OCD about getting back to everybody, which I'm really trying to work on. But that's more new, where I'm really realizing, oh, that's why at this point of my life, why I have kind of a distance from people. But like 5 years ago, it's simply because I was born really knowing myself, and I've always been very true to myself first and foremost. That's never been a problem for me.
Yeah.
It's never been an issue. I've always known who I am, know what I want, know how to get it, or at least make a plan to get it. And if I don't get it, then I'm like, what else do I want? I can be very I-centered.
Yeah.
And I've hurt people. I've hurt perfectly great relationships because what I wanted was more important than this friendship. And I have reasons for this. I'm self-aware. I know I was told some things as a child, and they became stories in my life. I was told that I had problems with making friendships, and I made that true.
Yeah.
And so I'm not blaming anyone who told me those things. And also I recognize that was a story I was told at a very vulnerable young age, and it was used against me, and it made me wrong for it. And I never really could shake it. And I also was told that I know myself more than anybody else. Like my dad would always say, you know yourself better than anyone I've ever known. Like, since you were 5 years old, you were so assertive. This is the outfit I'm wearing. This is the school I want to go to. Like, you know what you want. And I also love that about myself. So when I look at all these different things, and my love for travel, and my love for venturing and being a free spirit, and I want to love who I want to love, and like all these different things, it creates me, who I am now, a business owner, a leader, a guide in some sense, and also someone who can be really shitty at being very devoted to creating a solid friendship that's going to be lifelong. And it hurts me because I want to be the girl that's in these photos with the other girls that I've known since college. I look at these photos, and there's like groups of women who were in my sorority, the sorority that I left. because I was on to the next school. I was in this school, built all these great relationships, and then like a thief in the night, I'm going to a different school now, bye, disappeared. And then when I was done with that, I literally got in my car. When I was done with Austin, Texas, I graduated from school, and I left 48 hours after getting the idea of leaving. I said bye to one person. And I just did this again. I just left Boulder, and I'm living in New York City now. I said bye to a couple people, booked it, bye. I traveled for 5 months with a boy that I met on our third date. We met via Bumble. On our third date, we decided to go travel together. I was like, bye, friends. I'm going to go travel with this guy. And then after that, I was like, all right, now I'm going to go live in New York. Like, I am just by myself all the time. And what do I want? Connection. What are we going to do? Run away from it. Like,
why do we do this? Like, I honestly am like you're speaking exactly my language. Like, I do it all the time. Like, I hate farewells, but I'll like hate them. And so I tell limited people where I am. And then like literally my sister the other day messaged me and she's like, you literally need a show that says Keeping Up with Sam Asser because nobody can. Because I'm like, oh no, I'm here now. But why? Like, because my number one thing is connection as well.
So it's the farewell thing. It's so funny. I had like a retreat that was, I went to a retreat, not one that I hosted, but it was the end of a 3-day deep dive of cuddle puddles and acro yoga. And it was so yummy. And it was the last hour. And I was trying so hard to get the guy who drove us there to leave. I was like, I need to leave. I was making up lies. I was like, my boyfriend is like, needs me to be at a certain event at a certain time. We got to go. And he was like, Madelyn, just chill. We're all going to say bye. And everyone's relaxed, hanging on the couch. And I'm having a panic attack because I need to leave right now. And it's like yesterday after I shared the story, everyone is giving me all this attention. They're like, me too. I so resonate. Thank you for sharing this. And all of that felt so good. And then the one person that's like, you're not alone. I was like, fuck you. Because I am. She's the one person I didn't respond to. And it was this morning that I read it. So this is very much alive. This is not something that was like last year. Like today, she was like, "You're not alone. I hear you. I see you." I'm like, "No, you don't. Go away." I'm like, "You're projecting." Like the minute someone gives me love and the attention's all on me, like you're not alone. So interesting, and the best thing I think at the start that we can do is laugh. And acknowledge, like laugh at our human nature, and then acknowledge and just see what's happening.
Yeah.
Like it's cool that we see our patterns and we're aware of them. The next step is to breathe deeper and to soften the part of our body that wants to flee. And
I'm going to do it. Should we do it now?
Oh, just breathe.
Let's do it and soften that part.
Yeah. Let me sit with my cross legs. Yeah. Where are you holding the tension at the idea of staying and slowing down for connection? Where is that in your body?
Mine's in my solar plexus, like with my gut. Where's yours?
Oh, mine's in my jaw. It's really where I hold a lot. Yeah, I feel it right here. Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. So juicy. I think that's just like, that's the best remedy for the moments that we want to run.
Yeah.
When someone sees us, we get close, we feel connection.
Because it's so funny. I always think about this. I'm like, Sam, you literally chose a path in this world where you want to be seen, yet you're constantly up against being seen. And I'm like, obviously it's this kind of, you look at in this journey of life, what I came here to do or whatever. It's like, maybe it was that. It's like, it's my desire for connection and my, that the depth and the connection that I want to experience. Yeah, I'll run. And, my desire to be seen and to choose a path that like where I'm going to be seen and heard. And yeah, try like, okay, don't do it then. If it's like that much of it's bringing stuff up, don't do it. But then there's no part of me that can not do it. It's like, okay, cool. Like then let's move toward it and breathe and soften the edges and move through it. And because then in the way in which maybe this conversation is resonating with somebody and it's helping somebody, it's like, that's why. It's like we share this stuff because, yeah, we are like going through it, and maybe that's the journey, but then there's somebody else that needs to hear it so that they can do their thing. And I love that we're all just connected, and when we just share their stuff, it's like, oh, like I needed to hear that, or oh, that reminded me of something. And I love that happens, like what your video did.
Yeah, that was, I mean, then I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I'm sad because we're all longing. So there's part of it that is sad, and there's part of it that's very awesome. And we're all like coming together about this. And I also think of it like, so I think some people, we all have our different paths. We all have our different purposes. And I think that if I spent the last 28 years of my life being very committed and devoted to those friendships, wouldn't be here.
Right.
If I was stayed in Arkansas for finishing school, and I stayed with the sorority sisters, and I stayed with my partner, and I was very devoted, I would have a different life. Would it be a great life? Most likely. I'd find my way to a great life. It would be different though. And I think because I've been here, there, everywhere, and fiercely devoted to me, I've built what I've built. I've been committed to sharing my truth. And because I've been committed to sharing my truth and being vulnerable on air and broadcasting my dirty laundry and my entire life for all to hear, and been devoted to that mission, I have helped so many people. And I'm so grateful I am exactly the way I am without having those super deep friendships, because I've got my family, which I love and I'm super close with. And I'm starting to focus on one friend. Like, Melanie, wherever you are out there, like, you know, I'm talking about you right now. We're really diving into our friendship. And it's very beautiful. You may cross paths with her at some point, because she does this work. She's in this world.
Amazing. Yeah. And I have some really deep friendships. Like I love them so much, which is so great. But there's just like, you know, there's part of me that goes, okay, this is my pattern. I go, okay, I've been traveling. Now I'm ready to go back and like build a foundation and build a tribe and stay in one place. And then like 6 weeks later, I'm like, I'm out. But I have amazing friendships, like, which is, I'm so grateful for, like deep friendships, like, you know, like that cluster you can hold in your hand that are spread out because they're all the same, like doing great things. But then it's just like that long for tribe, like to come together. Yeah.
I want to add one more thing to this too, because as you're talking, I have so many friends.
Yes.
Like my entire phone is filled with friendships. We're talking about all these different vulnerable things. I think because we know too the depth of a bond, like how deep a human can go. Like maybe our definition too of deep friendships and what we're longing for is like what we know is possible and deep. Whereas like the other friendships we have might actually be pretty normal, like to what other people have. You know, it's just very interesting, because I do have a lot of friends who I could call at any moment. It's just they're not in my physical proximity.
Yeah.
I think that's what I want.
And we create that.
Right. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
When like the person who's living, breathing in the flesh is close to you, then we book it, but we're still friends. We just call each other and we FaceTime. Like that's the theme, I think, is like we're calling in the physical human form next to us to be our friend.
And then we just like, and then they're there and we're like, well, now I'm going to move here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I can actually stay really close with people even if I'm not in proximity, but I find that the other person can't, right? So then I get triggered by the fact that I'm like, oh, so now they no longer like, you know, like want to be, you know, so, and that's just their thing. It's like proximity is like better for them. But it's such a funny thing to look at. And I love that. And I also love the like, I know we have to wrap things up in a second, but I also love like how this masculine and feminine work can bring out the depth in relationships, the depth in, I think this is wise, because you're in this work and it shows you the depth of connection that you can experience to your own self and your own masculine and feminine, but to the people that you are relating to. And I think that's wise. Like this work is powerful for that.
Yeah, you know, like when you experience that kind of eye fucking, like energetically, when you're like locked in with someone and you like almost pass out because their gaze is so intense and you love it so much, like it's very hard. It's very hard to have relationships and friendships physically in person that aren't that. You want that. And you can always create that too. It only takes one person really to bring it to that level, which is what's so powerful about all this. But yeah.
So good. I remember I met a beautiful friend in Vancouver. When it was like a Tuesday, random Tuesday, she's like, "Oh, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Should we eye gaze?" She's like, "What?"
What is that?
Sorry. But yeah, then we start doing weird things like that to really deepen our connection. But I love it. I love being weird. Maddy, you're amazing. Like, thank you so much for sharing this today. And do you have any last thing that you want to feel into, that you feel like expressing, that would really round out our conversation today?
Well, well, feminine. I'm just like here, there, everywhere, all the different things. All I would say is that all these pieces, all these pieces that anyone feels coming up for them right now is perfect. It's where you're supposed to be. Whatever you feel right now, act as if that is exactly where it is supposed to be in your life, where you're supposed to be in your life. Whether you're like us and you like to flee, and you're a wanderlusting, traveling, fiery soul, or you're like water and you're super intuitive and emotional and you just feel all the things. Like whatever's coming up for you in life is exactly how it's supposed to be, and it's perfect. That's where I would like to end that.
I love it. Well, thank you for joining me. And where can people go to find out more about you and your work?
You can go to maddymoon.com, Maddy, moon.com. And my podcast, Mind Body Musings, is on my website, iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. That has been around for about 6 years now, every week, and a new episode. So lots of episodes to dive into. And you can also find me where I am very active on Instagram at Madelyn Moon, Madelyn Moon.
Epic.
Oh, also, I have a new free gift that I'm super excited about, because if anyone is interested in embodiment practices to help go into their feminine deeper, I recorded an audio with 4 embodiment practices that are all less than 10 minutes. So you can get that on my website as well.
Okay. And that's gold, because I talk about embodiment work all the time and people are like, what are you talking about? And then you do a practice and they're like, oh, that's it. So go there and grab that. I highly recommend. Thank you so much. I deeply honor you and respect you and love the work that you do in this world and how you show up. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's so fun.